TPain is a rapper within the music industry that took off in the early 2000s and ushered in a new era of rap with his AutoTune style that would inspire many artists after him. The use of AutoTune was new to the rap industry, and TPain ended up being the pioneer. Kanye West would later adopt the use of AutoTune on his 2008 album titled 808s and Heartbreaks, along with Lil Wayne in his song Lollipop, that also came out in 2008. TPain revolutionizing the game brought him millions of dollars each year, and as of today, TPain has accumulated a net worth of $10 million according to the website Wealthy Gorilla. But throughout his time within the limelight, not everything has been amazing. With very little knowledge of money management, TPain would lose a lot of his money with bad investments and bad spending habits, and would get to a point in his life where he'd have to ask somebody to borrow money in order to get food from Burger King.
So you was broke. You had like $0 broke?
I had to borrow money to get my kids Burger King.
But TPain eventually got back on his feet and started to generate more income, and with more money management knowledge was able to sustain his lifestyle. And nowadays, he rarely even releases music, and switched over to live streaming on Twitch, where he has a huge following of nearly 900,000 followers. Over the years, TPain has been fighting his label, but was able to leave his label after he dropped his last album called Oblivion. So in today's video, let's talk about TPain and how he was able to escape the music industry and pursue other endeavors like streaming on Twitch to showcase things he likes to do, and also the interviews he's been doing recently where he exposes the music industry. Now, well before TPain was even signed under Akon's label Convict Music, he was creating music in a group called Nappy Heads. TPain joined the group in 1999 and quickly started producing and writing music for them. Nappy Heads became mildly successful in Florida, and they started to gain even more attention surrounding the group and were in talks with Sony to sign a contract to be under Sony's label. But a dispute between contract would lead to the deal being broken off. The group continued to make music together, but slowly started to fall apart behind the scenes, and by 2004 would vanish from the community altogether. TPain, on the other hand, stood out from the group. He had writing skills and was able to be consistent while creating music. After Akon's song Locked Up came out in 2004, TPain went on to cover the song and make it his own, and release his own version of the song called I'm Fucked Up, which caught the attention of Akon, who later hired TPain as a writer for his music. In an interview with Steve-O, TPain talks about a time where he wrote a song for Akon, and Akon said that he didn't like it. So instead, TPain recorded the song and released it, and it blew up. The song was called I'm Sprung, and after it was released and started to pick up steam, major labels went knocking on TPain's door with offers for his new song. TPain states in the interview that Interscope Records was offering him $900,000 for his song, but didn't offer any other benefits with it, and didn't speak about how they would further his music career, and they only cared about the song and not really TPain. But Akon offered him $20,000 in a career, and TPain took that offer in hopes that it would pay off, which it eventually did.
Akon didn't recognize you as an artist initially.
Right.
Then he hires you as a writer. You write a song for him. He says that's a pussy song for chicks.
Yep.
And you say, okay, cool. You go ahead and record it yourself.
Yep.
It becomes a hit. And now you're getting like offers from every major label. What was
Right.
it? Was Atlantic offered you $900,000?
That was Interscope. Interscope offered me
Interscope, yeah,
$900,000.
Atlantic offered you $700,000.
Yeah, yep.
And then Akon turns around and he says, I'm gonna offer you $20,000.
$20,000.
But I'm gonna give you a career.
Absolutely.
And you go with Akon.
Absolutely.
And
He was the
that-
only one offering long-term benefits.
But couldn't he have given you $100,000 in a career?
I feel like yes, but my dad also needed money at the time, and it was just he was the only person that was assuring me that it would go further than this one song.
And you believed him.
Absolutely.
In 2005, TPain released his debut studio album called Rappa Turned Singa, which went certified gold, selling 500,000 copies, and also peaked at number 33 on the Billboard 200. With his use of AutoTune throughout this project, it put a spotlight on this new style of rap that was never seen before. No other artists around that time thought about rap being paired with AutoTune, which helped TPain stand out from the crowd of rappers in the early 2000s. Fans of his music wanted more, and in 2007, their wishes would be answered when he released his second studio album called Epiphany, which was a major hit, selling 171,000 copies in its first week and also debuting at number 1 on the Billboard 200. This album was iconic for TPain and was released with 2 of TPain's songs that are still relevant as of today, like Buy You a Drink and Bartender. Since the release of the album, it has sold over 800,000 copies, and the song Bartender was nominated for a Grammy in 2008. TPain has said multiple times throughout different podcast appearances that 2007 was his peak year in the music industry. He was featured on a bunch of songs throughout that year, like Good Life with Kanye West and Kiss Kiss with Chris Brown. Good Life with Kanye West eventually won the BET Award in 2008 for Best Collaboration, and then went on to win a Grammy that same exact year. In 2008, TPain released his third studio album called 3 Rings, which sold 168,000 copies in its first week. TPain went on tour that year and had sold out shows and was well respected within the music industry. That year, he once again was featured on a ton of new songs. After being featured on thousands of songs and also releasing a ton of albums and singles, TPain was told to take a break from releasing music, get out of the public eye, and make the fans miss you, because his managers didn't want TPain to oversaturate the industry and have fans turn on him. But then something would happen, something massive that would change the trajectory of TPain's whole entire career. While on break, Jay-Z released a track called DOA, or Death of AutoTune. During this song, Jay-Z mentions TPain and also speaks about how the rap scene has changed into being filled with autotune and how he wanted the hip-hop industry to go back to normal. TPain went on to clarify during the Steve-O podcast that he later realized that the song wasn't really shots at him, but shots at other artists who were starting to steal his flow and use of autotune. But 2009 was a bad year for TPain. The public started to get tired of autotune being featured on a lot of new music, and because TPain was the pioneer for this new sound, he received most of the criticism, with people blaming him for ruining music. But apart from the criticism, TPain released a mixtape with Lil Wayne called T-Wayne, and they were supposed to release a debut album as a new collaboration, but with Lil Wayne's legal troubles, it never came out until late into the 2010s. During 2009, TPain also released his new app on the App Store called I'm TPain, which was an app that let you record music while using autotune. This app turned out to be the same exact app that Ayo and Teo would use to create their hit song Rolex almost 8 years after the release of the I Am TPain app. The early 2000s were TPain's worst years since coming into the industry. During TPain's height in 2007, he never checked his bank account and had his own people to watch his cash flow for him. This turned out to negatively impact him once his career started to slow down. With several bad purchases and horrible spending habits, TPain only found out that he was flat out broke when he tried to purchase a property that was right next to his, and after he bought a $2.1 million Bugatti. TPain blames himself for not watching his account and hiring other people to keep track of his money, and later said that the people watching the money weren't necessarily spending the money or scraping a little bit off the top, but they knew that if they told him that he was bankrupt, that they would be kicked off the payroll.
You don't have any more money. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Say it again.
Right.
It was like, yeah, you don't have any more money. And I was like, how did you let that happen? They were like, well,
Right.
how did you let that
Right.
happen?
Now, all too often, it's actually a case where the management,
Yeah.
the business manager, all the people are actually stealing. But that wasn't the case with
That
you.
wasn't the case with
This
me.
was
That
just,
wasn't I mean, it was a combination of it actually, though.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was, they were having fun with funds, but still not saying when it was running out.
Right.
Because they knew if I would have known that I was running out, I would have stopped making it.
The party's over.
Right.
TPain also talked about how he let his manager do all the investing, and the manager would invest and beat down properties to fix and flip them. But the manager never even sold one of those houses that he tried to flip. On The Breakfast Club, TPain told Charlemagne that at his peak, he had $40 million in his bank account. But at his lowest, he couldn't even afford to get a meal from Burger King without having to borrow money from someone else. He also went on to add that he never received payment for any of the features he did with other bigger artists at the height of his career, and said that he was just trying to get his foot in the door and earn respect with some of those legends. After TPain finally sold some of his cars and made wiser business investments, he'd slowly build his income back up. He claimed that he was a lot wiser now since everything happened to him. In the mid-2010s, TPain would create an account on Twitch. He always loved playing video games in general, and his manager suggested the live streaming service to him. Twitch was still pretty young and was just purchased by Amazon around the same time, which gave the platform and users who are on the platform security for long-term success. That's when TPain started to go live, and at first he would point out that he'd receive a lot of hate within his chats, which made him double think his live streaming career. He'd state that the trolls would be in his chat telling him his music sucks and his career was dead, which was the only reason why he made the switch to become a streamer. But he eventually blocked out the haters and continued to live stream in between studio sessions. Over the years, TPain started to talk about his issues with record labels and the industry in general. He'd state that it took $200,000 in advertising to get your album to the top of the charts.
Every time you drop a single, you automatically have to spend 200 grand.
Yep.
Radio, promo,
To make it-
merch, to make it the most popular. If you don't do that, you're not cutting through the fog.
He'd also speak out against the industry and how they put on a facade and how they don't want artists to ruin the illusion that being in the industry is the best career path ever. Leading up to 2017, TPain released one of his last albums called Oblivion. During his live stream, he stated that he had a different formula going into recording the tracks for this project. Instead of actually trying, he'd get drunk and record anything that came out of his mouth. This was due to the label asking him to make music sounding like Future, music about taking drugs and disrespecting women. TPain said that those words made him upset, so he wanted to get the album done as soon as possible so that the label could drop him and he could be a semi-independent artist.
Has my songwriting process changed through the years? Nope. Oh yeah, it did once. It did once, like 2 albums ago. Nope. Album before last. The Oblivion album. Completely different fucking writing process. Just get hammered, drunk, and say whatever the fuck come out my mouth. And that's what the label wanted, and that was the last album I needed to give them. They fucking put it out and they let me off the label. That they wouldn't take any actual good music. It was like, give us some street shit. They basically was like, we want you to sound like Future. And I'm like, so me then? I was like, no, we want you to sound like Future. It was like, we want your voice to sound. They didn't say this, but they was like, we want your voice to sound like it. We want Future music. And it was like, all right, cool.
I remember that. You were very upset.
I was very upset. I cried in the studio. The first time they told me that shit, I just cried. And they didn't tell me that. Keep that in mind. But I went in the studio and I tried. I was just like, let me just do my best impression of Future on this shit. And they was like, this is it.
Shut up,
This
Kyle.
is it. They're like, this is it. This is what they want right now. And I'm like, all right, okay. And then I cried.
It would later come out that TPain during the early 2010s was fighting some really bad demons with depression, and that depression came about because Usher and TPain were on a plane ride, and when TPain woke up from his nap, Usher called him over to talk to him. During that conversation, Usher told TPain that he ruined music for actual singers, and that really hurt TPain and it really stuck with him because he said that Usher was his idol, and to hear something like that from your idol hit a lot different than somebody behind a screen saying it. TPain spends a lot of his time now spreading a positive message about how to handle your finances and gives as much knowledge out as possible in order to protect future artists coming into the industry. In 2021, right before the new year, TPain was able to strike a deal with Twitch to become a Twitch partner and also add to the site's growing catalog of music. In the Steve-O podcast, he stated that he has made more money in the past 4 to 5 years playing video games on Twitch than he has in the past 4 to 5 years creating music and releasing it.
Ask, almost all of our podcast guests, like what their different revenue streams are, like where they're getting their money.
Yeah.
And we essentially just try to download information for us to sharpen our game.
Mine is mostly video games. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, you're making
Like on
money off
Twitch?
video
I'm
games.
making more money off of video games than
And
I've
that's
made in the
licensing
last
music to the video
4
games?
years. No, just playing them.
Well, you're
Twitch
making
streaming.
money playing video games.
Playing video games, absolutely.
So that's like playing them on Twitch.
Yeah.
So from your Twitch stream, you're getting more revenue than from music?
Yeah.
TPain has had an up and down career and got to a point where he was even struggling to pay for a meal, but found himself back on top later on in his career. But instead, it wasn't music that was making him a large amount of money. Instead, it was live streaming on Twitch. TPain even explained that he loved live streaming because it felt good that he didn't feel alone while doing the things that he loves to do, which is play video games. TPain was able to get out of his label contract and now doesn't feel the pressure to release new music every couple of years. This would lead to a successful career outside of music, and he would even be the winner on the first ever season of The Masked Singer. TPain is an inspiration to artists who may be in a bad spot within their career. He is showing everyone that music isn't the be-all end-all, and there are other ways to express yourself outside of making music. But this is how TPain was able to escape the music industry by becoming a Twitch streamer, but not just becoming a Twitch streamer, excelling at live streaming to a point where he would be nominated for a Streamy Award in 2022. But how do you feel about TPain's career and how it ended? Let me know in the comments below. This has been the end of the video. If you have any content creators you want me to check out, the best way to suggest them to me is through my Instagram DMs and also through my Discord. Both will be linked in the comments below. Along with those 2 links, there will be another link for my second channel where I do commentary videos on creators or situations that I normally don't cover on this channel. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to never miss out on new uploads. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Usually during his streams, he'd do some questionable things that would make people ask if he was, I guess, gay.
On my mind, I just beat his meat. 3 times 3 is 9.
He'd kiss his friends, sit on their lap.